Hey, this is Adam Francis, and you're listening to the Equipped to Endure podcast on the Prepper Podcast Radio Network. You gotta stay safe, and remember, you're not always prepared, you're never prepared. The Equipped to Endure podcast is brought to you by Knife Rights. Please go to kniferights.org and become a member to help support our knife rights for a sharper future. Knifeforums.com, intelligent knife discussion for the knife enthusiast. And Hedgehog Leatherworks, producing the best high-quality leather sheaths. Hedgehog Leatherworks, embrace the wild. If you have questions for the E2E podcast, you can call us at 917-889-7908, 917-889-7908. And just remember, the podcast is live every Tuesday at 1300 Eastern Standard Time. See you there. Everybody, it is September 27th, 2011, and this is the Equipped to Endure podcast. I'm your host, Adam Francis. I got my two hosts on with me today, Mr. Robert Oliver. Robbie, how are we doing today, brother?
Man, I couldn't be any better if I tried.
Awesome. And, of course, Mr. Joe Flowers.
I'm about to interview Les Stroud, and then I'm leaving the country tonight. I'm doing fantastic.
Fly by night. Yeah, you just mentioned it. We got a great show today. You know, we've had some great guests before, but today's show, I think, is I'm really excited about. And we have Mr. Les Stroud on. He'll be on here in a few minutes. Just real quick, guys, if you get a chance, go onto the website at www.equippedtoendure.com. We've got some great videos on YouTube as well. This week, we did a quick modification to our Becker BK2 to show you how to use your ferro rod on it. And also, Robbie gave us some input and helped me out with some canine Q&A for those of you guys who like to hear dogs out on the trail. So some good stuff on that one. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest today, Mr. Les Stroud. Les, you on with us?
I am here.
Les, how are you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. We know you're very, very busy. You got a lot of stuff going on today, so we'll probably just get back into it. And I guess we just want to sit down and have a couple questions with you today. And the first one I got to ask you is, looking back at the first week out there alone when you were filming Survivorman, did you think that you would have so much success from that, or it will become what it has become?
Well, I guess in reality, no. I suppose I want to be humble and say no. The classic answer. I had no idea it was going to be this big, but there's really sort of two ways to give my answer. On that level of things, when I first started, you got to understand. I mean, my idea for it was way back in the mid '80s when I was training in survival and learning survival from courses and teachers and stuff, and I just had this idea that I knew I was good with film and I'd worked in the film industry, and I thought I need to do a great home instructional video on survival because I was really getting into this stuff at the time and I was becoming an instructor. And then it occurred to me that, the best way to do this would be not, instead of some boring sort of dried, here's how you do the fire bow, what if I actually went out and survived and filmed it and showed that? And that, to me, I thought, well, that would be the great way to do it. Now, fast forward 15, 14 years later, and, I've had years of survival and all sorts of different adventures and things go on. And the Survivor series by Mark Burnett came out. And, of course, in terms of survival, it was crap. It was a lot of nonsense. But it was a very popular series and did super well. So I did all these interviews, and the light went off. I said, this will be a really good time to pitch this little idea of mine to television, never mind home DVD. So I did. And Survivorman went on the air. Now, at that point, getting on television, that was not my original goal. My original goal was to share and teach the skills because I love them so much. And, everything from brain tanning to shelter building to fire bows, you name it. And so now I'm going to do it on TV. And I've been experienced with television production, so it excited me because I've always been a performer and an entertainer. So now it got on TV. Okay, so at this point, I've achieved my goal already. I did my very first time I did it, the one you referred to. I did it once. It's called Stranded, actually, and I still sell that off. It's not on TV, but I've got it. And once I'd done that one, I had achieved my goal. So since that day, 10 years later, because it's been 10 years, it's all been gravy. So the concept that it's gone really big and it's in 120 countries worldwide and all of that, it is all a bonus. I'm very, very thrilled and pleased. And, yes, I am very surprised. On the other hand, I've always been into entertainment, so I know what can happen when shows do well, and so I've watched it, and I don't mind positioning it so that it continues to do well. So there you go.
Yeah, because not only do you do your entertainment with the show, but you're also a professional musician. So I guess.
Well, I came from the world of rock and roll and music, and I did that for a lot of years, and then I did nothing but adventure and survival for a lot of years, and then back. So I've always vacillated between the two worlds, and so when I did Survivorman, here's the deal. All of the survival films before I got on television were great, but they also sucked. And they were terrible in terms of production. They were hardly watchable, and only hardcores like us could watch. We're going to sit down and watch fireball making for 3 hours. We're fine with that. Most people can't do that. So I recognize that. Then, if survival made it to television at all, it was done by TV producers, and they also sucked. Why? Because those people didn't know survival. They didn't know the real truth and nuances of what it takes to survive. So I felt, and I believe I proved it, that I could put the two together and say, you know what? I know how to make a watchable film that actually shows the truth of survival, that my survival instructor friends would also be proud of, and they could look at it and go, well, yep, that's it. He didn't miss a beat there, and that's what I endeavored to do with Survivorman.
And one thing is that you have started this genre in like the last 10 years of the survival TV. I mean, it's pretty much all thanks to Survivalman. So I mean, how do you feel about your fellow survivalists out there in their shows today off the back of Survivalman?
Well, I think again, there's sort of there's two layers to answering that question as well. On the one level, I'll absolutely say that getting the information out there, sort of one way or another, has been great. I can tell you, I've had dozens of survival instructors say, "Hey, thanks, man, my classes are full," and so I know that happens, and that's really, really cool. And it's fun. I'm very, very, very humbled and proud to know that I was sort of the first one to start all of this. On the other hand, there's also a lot of there's misinformation out there. The sensationalization of the skill is upon us. There's a lot of fake drama and frankly a lot of crap that's associated with it. I think there's a lot of really good people. I know that Cody and the other fella, I don't know them, but my friends in survival say these are the real deal guys. I've worked with them before, so that's great, But I think that unfortunately there has been also a lot of sensationalism. And I think every once in a while I get criticized for being a little bit slow or duller in my shows. Well, you know what? Survival is not sensationalistic. Survival hurts. It's for those of us who love it, we love the skills, but loving being cold, hungry, and tired, exhausted, and lonely, and all that stuff, nobody loves that. That stuff is difficult, and survival is difficult. So my answer, again, it's on two levels. The one level, I'm glad that the information is out there in so many ways, but it's disappointing to know that there's wrong information, bad information put out in the name of TV production. And that's like I said in the beginning, right? I always said TV people don't know how to make survival films because they're not survivalists. And so now that I made it popular and it became a show with a lot of copycat shows, the TV people have gotten more into it. Well, how can we make this, how can we get more ratings? And that's when you start compromising the skills. And I don't think I could be accused of ever compromising the skills.
Yeah, and I think one important thing too is the reason that we do, people who are into bushcrafting or survival training, we do it for the skills, for the accomplishment, for the challenge of overcoming those obstacles, being out there and being away from society. It's a personally enriching thing. Do you find that's the same for you still now, even after all this time you've been doing Survivorman and Beyond Survival, or now you kind of tired of being out in the woods nowadays?
No, it absolutely on the first account. I mean, for me, it is about the challenge, and it is about the enjoyment of the skills and that. I mean, that's why at the moment I'm looking at, and I've kind of sneaked this out of the bag a bit. I don't have it in terms of the business. I don't have it settled, but I'm looking at doing sort of a Survivorman comeback special. And why? Well, on one level because the fantastic fans have been asking for it, but the other one is, you know what? Beyond Survival was an incredible, intense series for me, and I'm very proud of it. So to go back and do a Survivorman now could be sort of like, been there, done that. Well, how about I up the ante a bit? So I'm looking now and say, well, I still have the skill set. I still love it. What if I up the ante and go at it? So very much so. I'm always about upping the ante. I'm always about the next challenge. I don't mean in a sensationalistic way or a way just to make TV ratings. I mean a way that personally challenges me. You know, I love getting out. This is my 50th year coming into it. It's the big 50 birthday, and so I want to hit that decade strong and vibrant and still with a lot of challenges on my horizon.
Awesome.
Hey, Les, you seem to be like a really creative person. I mean, I could not dream of this many different ways to start a fire, you know, out in the woods or anything like that. And, you know, with your show, you've already, you know, shown that you're a creative person. Were you this creative in high school? Did you have these types of abilities in high school to, like, try and break out of the normal thing that you see? I mean, what do you think set you on the path that you are now?
No, you know what? I'm glad you asked that question because actually recently I've been involved with a program with Amex Canada that is called Room for Thought, and it's all about mentoring. And my answer to you is no. In fact, in high school, I had no guidance. I had no mentorship. I was basically a kid sitting on the cement block at the high school with his buddies drinking beer. I did not have this direction. I knew I had creativity in my spirit, in my soul, in my heart, in my mind, but I didn't know how to let it out. I started to be a musician when I was 14. I was big into adventure up until then. Jacques Cousteau, Tarzan, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. These are the things I grew up with. And then, so really the creativity, I knew it was always there, but I really didn't understand or get a good grip on how to start purveying it well into my 20s, and I didn't perfect that in my mind until I was about 30, and I spent my 30s really starting to push things. So I guess the answer to your question is, yes, I believe I was, but no, I was not doing anything about it at the time. And I think that's the travesty of a lot of teenagers and kids today in high school, and that is they don't have the outlets, they don't know the outlets. I think mentorship is so important because, you know, if someone had come along and taken a kid like me who was wasting his time and just sat down and gave me the time of day and said, you know, here's, you know, not the classic, you need to go get a job, but rather, what do you want to do? And they really deeply asked me the question. I said, well, I really like to be an adventurer. Okay, well, here's how you could go about it. If someone had done that with me, I might have saved a lot of wasted years. So, and I'm glad you asked the question because it gives me the opportunity to say, no, man, I was a normal, I was a bored teenage suburban kid. Getting into trouble in the wrong ways, and I wish someone had given me these outlets, you know, and I would have taken a different path. But I found it eventually.
Well, Les, you say how you went from the bored suburban kid, and now you know you're looked up to as a survival guru. Are there any old timers out there that you still look up to as far as education or inspiration or anything like that?
Well, absolutely, and I think that I'm going to throw a few names out there that for people who are listening that they, you know, feel free to Google or find the contacts because these are, you know, sort of my survival gurus and heroes. And as I said, when we talk about the other copycat shows, I'm in no position to say anything about them. I don't really know them. I'd heard about Cody, but I don't know the other guys. I know what some of them are, who some of them are, but. In that world, I'm going to start with my personal buddy and hero, David Holladay, and he taught for years out of the Boulder Outdoor School of Survival. He's I call him Desert Dave. He's a quiet man of a Mormon background, wonderful sort of spiritual guy who's just he's best desert survival. I mean, him and Larry Dean Olson, you know, phenomenal instructors. John and Jerry McPherson out of Randolph, Kansas, you know, just great all-around survival instructors. People who I haven't met, but my survival friends recommend highly, Mountain Man Mel Deweese, or of course the Godfather Morris Kochanski up in Canada, in Western Canada. You know, these men and women they are brilliant in what they do. You know what? When I used to do Survivorman, and I had to connect on the ground in some location, and I wanted to learn about the areas, they would say, well, you know, how do you find this guy, Les? I don't know. I'd have some guy working in the film industry saying, well, I don't know how to find, you know, someone who knows survival. I said, I'll tell you what, here's some questions to ask. And one of the things I would say is ask them if they know about, and I would mention a few skills, certain skills. One of them would be edible wild plants, and another one might be something like brain tanning. I knew that if they said, oh, yeah, this guy actually teaches classes in edible wild medicinal plants, I'd go, okay, if he's gone that far into it, he's into it. He loves the stuff. He's not just a weekend sort of, and I love I've got so many fans in the military, and military instructors that are terrific, but they tend to be very reliable on their kits, and they drop away from things like medicinal plants and the more earthy sort of skills. Well, I love those skills. And when you find someone who knows all those skills, they really know their survival stuff. And these other names I've mentioned, they all sort of have that overall. If you go out in the desert with Desert Dave Holladay, you're eating things, and you know how to sleep, and you know where to sleep, and a fire in an instant. And it's David taught me, was the guy to teach me my first hand drill. So,
Hey, is the desert your favorite place to do bushcrafty stuff?
No, it's my least, actually. It's so hot and sandy and everything. I do love the desert. It's such a beautiful place. I guess you've asked to see. As you guys probably know, there is a difference between bushcraft stuff and survival stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the public at large don't know that. They don't get that. Even that's why I did and I don't mean this to be a shameless plug, but that's why I did a bushcraft knife with Heli. But I'm going to be coming out with a full-on survival knife elsewhere. And the reason I'm not at permission to say with who I'm teamed up with to do that yet, but it's soon. The reason there is a difference between the two skill sets. So to answer your bushcraft question, I'm going to backpedal and say, actually, the southern climes and the deserts and that, they are great places because it's warm, it's dry, things work well. And whereas you get up into Canada, you got a lot of rain to deal with. It's wetness, damp forests. It's a little harder to do things. To answer your question, to flip it back on you and say, in terms of survival, well, the easiest survival, of course, is is Gilligan's Island. That really is the easiest. Tropical survival. It's just find some coconuts, find fresh water. You're laughing. Go collect oysters and clams. But the Canadian forest, well, it's where I grew up. So you always recognize your homeland a little easier. So survival for me in the Canadian bush, it's just like going it's like, yeah, okay, send me out there, naked, I know what to do, kind of thing. And so I'm always very, very comfortable doing survival there. But bushcraft, I'll bet you, push comes to shove, I would probably say more the southern climes, the California, Sierra Nevadas, the deserts, because you've got so much fairish weather to deal with and to build things and work on things.
Actually, funny enough, we were lucky enough to test out the Heli Tamagami knife. So were you happy how that one went? And I guess you said you're doing another survival knife here in the near future, but any other survival or bushcraft-related gear that you're in the mix of designing right now that you can talk about?
Absolutely, yeah. And let me premise this by saying, for me, when I created Survivorman, I created it because I love survival. End of story. And it just so happens I'm a good entertainer, and I understand the industry, and I know how to film. Okay, so I used that skill. So now we talk about, all right, so here's the plug thing. I am releasing and coming out with a full line of survival knives, so machete, survival knives, folding knife. I'm coming out with a full line of survival kits.
Machete?
Machete will be there, yes.
Okay. That's,
the whole. I have five.
Now, but that's
what's that?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just a very big machete nut, so I'm excited.
Yeah. I've got 5. It's a line of 5 knives. I will very soon be saying who I've teamed up with to do this. We are already in prototype stage. Very, very proud of this. Also, survival kits, same stage, and I will also say who I'm teamed up with for that. Now, but here's what I want to say is because the first thing is, oh, great, another TV celebrity launching another line of his own stuff. But again, where did I start Survivorman from? Because I love the skills. I would have launched a line of survival kits and survival knives regardless if I've ever made it on television or not. So I'm frustrating the people I'm working with because I'm like, no, I'm not going to get. I don't need to beat Bear Grylls to the market. I don't need to beat dual survival to the market. It's not about marketing for me. It's about the fact that I want to make sure I come up with the best quality, the best that there is when it comes out. So I'm working on the line of survival knives and full-on survival kits. When they come out, which will be very soon, it will be everything that is in my heart as a survival instructor will be put into these kits and these knives because bottom line is I simply want them to be the best. This is not about marketing or trying to offset my yearly revenue or anything like that. This is about creating something of high quality that you guys, because you guys are into this. I need to know that you guys can look at my stuff and go, man, you did your stuff, Les. This is solid. This is good.
Well, let me piggyback something on there, Les, because I think it's so important, because especially with any piece of survival gear, people are going to go out there. They're going to rely on this piece of equipment, to last them in a survival situation. It could save their life. So it really is difficult to make sure that piece of gear is of top quality. You're not trying to cut corners for price and everything, and that'd be great. We love to see some great stuff from you. We've seen some other kits from other people. We won't mention any names, but have had some production issues and some quality control issues, and that's always very disturbing to see, because of course these are pieces of equipment, like I said before, that people are going to rely upon.
Well, and for years there's been stuff out there, and honestly, for years most of the stuff's crap. Us as survival instructors, what do? We customize our own gear kits. We go through, we pick out the stuff that I do not know a survival instructor that has walked into a major chain store and bought an off-the-shelf first aid or survival kit. We generally, maybe the first aid kit's a bit, but generally we customize because we've been through it and we know what really should be in there. We also know the quality of that particular item needs to be. You get into a survival kit, there's going to be probably 27 different items in that kit. Well, you can't you got to look at it as what's the weakest link. And you don't know what your issue is going to be in the field. You don't know what's going to be your worst thing that you have to deal with out there. So if your item that handles that for you is also the weakest link in the pack and it's a weak link, that's a problem. Remember, we're talking about survival. Survival is about surviving. It's about living to get. Here's the catch of survival. It's becoming sensationalized on television. The reality is, you just want to go home. Nobody wants to be sleep. Shelters. Oh, we learn how to build shelters. Shelters are a last-ditch thing. If you're building a shelter, you're really destitute, because really you're lost, you're hurt, you're broken leg, you want to go home. You don't want to be out there surviving. Now, yes, we enjoy the skill sets, and we go out and we practice this on weekends, and we do week-long excursions. And I love all the skill sets, and I love my shelter building. However, in a real, true situation, your survival kit is meant to keep you alive, not be something fancy that you bought and you hang on your belt.
So, Les, being a fan of survival and the skills and all that, how many knives do you own? Do you have a bunch?
How many knives do I let me put it this way. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me answer this way. I did a garage sale a couple of weeks ago, and just because I had too many, I had about 25 knives up for sale. And of course, that was only a portion of what I have that I kept. So I got too many. Plus I'm given a lot, as you can well imagine. But as I was going through it, that said, I still probably always default to my few favorites, and I was very proud to design and build the heli knife with heli, my Tamagami. That's that bushcraft feel, wooden handle, handmade, curly birch, all of that stuff. It's beautiful. And now for survival, I'm doing the same thing. So I guess in the future I'll probably have my own gear. I better have my own gear, or that doesn't say very much, does it?
For those who are wondering, of course, Equip to Endure has a Tamagami review on, and Tactical Knives just did one too. Review.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen. I think I read the Tactical Knife, and I think actually didn't you do a sort of like a podcast, like a video review?
We did a contest giveaway. We did a review on the Tamagami, and then also we did a big giveaway.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much for that, by the way.
No problem. Well, I do have a question back to the gear. We were really big about going out there and testing the gear for hard use. Do you have those same practices when you get a new item before you take it out in the field? You go out there and maybe even in your backyard and put it through the ringer?
Oh boy, I'm going to answer the question honestly. It's a funny thing. I'm from the get-go, I'm not really a gearhead, and so I'm a bit lazy. I'm like, well, I'll just take it out there and see what happens, which gets me in trouble. But on the other hand, it also proves things out. So what I do in some occasions, I get my survival cronies and I'll say, hey, can you check this out for me when you go out next weekend? Because I'm going to go do this thing, and I'm thinking of using this brand and that one. And so I'll have buddies kind of do it. But for the most part, no. For the most part, I don't even do that. And when I was doing Survival, in the early days of Survival, like Season 1, you'll actually see that there's a few, almost every show, there's like a piece of gear that I test out. And like one of them was one of those little sort of wire hand saws thing, which busted in my hands. And what I did was, again, keeping the realism, I said, you know what, I'm going to walk into a store, I'm going to buy a quote-unquote survival item off the shelf in its bubble wrap, and I'm going to go out and do my little Survivorman thing, and I'm going to have this thing with me just to see how it works. And in some cases, like, that works pretty good. And in other cases, like, well, that's a piece of crap, and you don't need to be wasting your money on this because it's not going to help you. And I kind of liked the surprise of that. I liked taking sometimes I kind of knew what was probably going to happen, just having it in my hand. It's like, oh, this is not going to work. And other times it's like, well, I've seen this hanging from the shelves. I've never used it, but hey, let's try this. You know, it might have been a little form of spark or fuel or something. But so that's what I do. I like to, and I used to do that when I was just training in survival too and instructing. My testing of ground of gear would be to go out on one of my survival missions and test it there. So, you know, and just see what happens. But it was kind of always fun with Survivorman because if it didn't work, then I was disadvantaged for the rest of the time.
You must have loved those episodes.
Some of them. My favorite, I think, was that wire. I think of that wire saw because, you know, it's like, you know, survival saw, this little curled up wire thing, and I go to do it, and I start, you know, I think it was 3 or 4 strokes, and then snap. I'm like, okay, well, that's useless. It's not long enough to be a snare, and I can't use it for anything else. So.
Well, let's taking a step back from gear for a moment, if we can. You know, I know that you travel all over the place, and you're constantly got projects going on. Can you tell us a little bit about what you have going on currently, and what we can expect to see from you in the near future?
Yeah, so to take a breath with this, I've got a load on my plate. I'm in that position right now where I'm sort of in between. It's a lot of emails and phone calls and meetings that way to set things up. Beyond Survival is now in the can, and it's airing, and I'm very, very proud of it. If you think about it, I've got essentially 35 episodes under my belt over the past while. Here's what I'm building now to the future. Number one is I'm developing a new series that I won't get into because I'm still in the development stage, but basically more of less Stroud, the way I do things, in your face, intense, on the ground, real stuff. So you got to get the real deal from me, or there's no point in me doing it. So I'm working on some new series. What will it be themed as? I'm not sure yet. There'll be survival in there. There'll be larger worldly things in there. I'm not sure where I'm going with it just yet. Number 2 is I'd like to do at least a few more Survivorman specials. I want to do that for the fans. They've been so wonderful to me over the years. I want to do it for me, for some fun. I say for fun, but it'll be hard. I actually have to go back into some conditioning and stuff to be ready for it. But I'd like to do that. So I'm in talks right now to make that happen. And just for the fans who are hearing this, you got to understand it's not so easy. It's a messy business to get something on television. There's always lawyers involved. It's a long trough, even when you're coming off of having a hit series. To go to the next level again is more negotiating. So I'm working on that, but I want to make that happen. And one way or the other, I'm going to make that happen. And then number 3, which is a big thing for me, is, as you guys know, I perform. It's a little bit like the Hugh Jackman. Whoever thought Wolverine could sing and dance? But I go out, and I've been a rock and roll performer for many years, and I'm developing a very extensive music, film, storytelling tour where you'll go out to a theater. Imagine going into a theater and big screens. You're going to see my wilderness images from all around the globe, my survival images from all around the globe, the remote peoples I've been with, the ceremonies. You're going to have a full rock show as if Peter Gabriel and U2 got together and had a baby, and musically speaking. And you're going to get intimate interaction with me, storytelling, and I'm actually doing a sort of a warm-up tour at the moment and Q&A as well. And I've done a couple of test concerts, sold out, standing ovation, and it's just wonderful. I get down. You want to ask me about what the craziest thing is I ever ate? I'm there to answer that question. You want to ask me about survival? I'm there to answer that question. At the same token, I'm going to tell you some stories from the field. We're going to rock you out with some great music, and you're going to see images that are, large. Some of them you've seen before, but a lot you haven't. And so I'm developing that big tour. And I've got my third book coming out with HarperCollins. My photographer, Laura Bombier, and I are working on it's more of a fun book. I've done Will to Live, which is the stories. I've done Survival, the manual, which you know. And now the third book is more of an art piece. It's a lot of the photography from years of shooting Survivorman, Beyond Survival, and a lot of behind-the-scenes inside stories from the field that you haven't yet heard. So I've got that third book coming out. So between the book, the concert tour, and new series, I'm a busy guy.
Absolutely. Don't sleep is what you're telling us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't sleep. I'll sleep when I die.
No, I'm pretty excited about this survival rock opera thing. This sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and you know what? That kind of is what it's. That is sort of what it's classic big rock opera thing and very epic. And people are right now have been testing the music and people are freaking out and really pleased about that. I think I can. You know, let me put it this way. Bono is phenomenal, and Gabriel and Zeppelin or whoever you want. These are all phenomenal performers, but they've never lived in the jungle and survived off eating ants and stuff. These other survival guys and that and the shows and I think people like the Dog Whisperer out there doing appearances. Well, that's great, but they can't rock and roll. They cannot rock you out and play incredible music. I'm hoping I can do both, and I'm one of the guys. I'm just positioned in a place where I can present you a big rock spectacle, but get intimate and quiet and talk with you about living with quote unquote cannibals. And in between, and that's I think you called it that's right. It's a rock survival opera.
Awesome.
That is fantastic.
Well, Les, I've been getting into the Beyond Survival series here pretty recently, and this series seems a lot more personal to you than I guess any of the Survivorman series. I mean, what kind of change did this show affect you, or what were the effects of doing this show, going around with all these different people around the world?
Well, it affected me in some ways. I'm not sure if I was expecting or not expecting, but it's a strange thing, but in doing Survivorman, in a way, I almost got out of touch with the wilderness and connecting with the earth. Now you say, well, what are you talking about? You're out in the bush alone. How could you not feel super connected? Well, because I was busy running my camera and creating a show and filming myself doing firebows and stuff. So I'm very, very busy. And I felt a little out of touch. When I did Beyond Survival, I had to reconnect with shamans and divine healers and remote indigenous cultures who their whole life is still the earth. They're still there doing it. They're still poisoning their arrows and hunting with blowguns. And, so connecting with them really brought me back to where I once was years ago before the whole Survivorman thing started. And that's where I felt also very much at peace in the wilderness, very, very, very connected. I'm not going to say at one with the wilderness. That's a little cliche, but I did feel something much stronger. And Beyond Survival did that for me. It also showed me, groups of peoples like the Mantuai and the Wachapaide and that are so connected to the earth that made me, in a way, envy their connectedness, but also feel like this is what we need. There's this whole thing out there now about, nature deficit disorder. The biologists, the doctors have a name for it. Well, what's the cure for that? Get back out in nature. Simple cure. And I'm really focusing. I mean, that's what the whole thing in Hamilton is tonight. It's about connecting with the earth, and I felt that with Beyond Survival. And I'm not getting all airy fairy and new agey on you. I'm just saying that it's about connecting with the earth, and that's lost. And whether it's through hunting, fishing, survival, adventure, canoeing, kayaking, skiing, hiking, I don't care what it is, but one way or the other, reconnecting with the earth is a very important thing. You mentioned earlier about the high school and the kids and that. What else is needed for these guys? But this, give them a taste of that. And this, I'm very much, refocusing, and I think Beyond Survival, the series, did that for me.
Was there any single group that you stayed with that, really had a strong paradigm shift in your experiences, or it kind of was all together just a awesome experience?
It's a good question. I haven't been asked that before. I would suggest that it's the cumulative effect of all of them. I think by the time I'd gotten around to sort of the final show with the Mantuai, it's like, okay, I've been hit on the head enough now. I get it. These are people on opposite corners of the globe, and yet they're all saying the same thing. and I'm not living this way. We're not living this way in our societies. I get it. I see this. And again, I'm not about to tell everybody to abandon all of what they know and become, into Mayan prophecies or something like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they all speak the same language.
Absolutely.
And there is, there is a bit of a urgency to this commentary, with the way things are. And I for me, a big part of it is just getting back in touch with nature.
Well, Les, I hate to I hate to go to the mamby-pamby spiritual side of things too much, but do you think that possibly your connection with your music and that side of you allows you to be more open to nature and enjoy it? Because I've even as far as your MTV crib stain, the sense of humor and the spirit that you carry with you when you go out there is obvious. Do you think there's a reason behind that, maybe in the music or in your personality somewhere?
Well, I guess in a way I'm going to say no. I think the music in me is part of who I am and just what I have. I think that anyone else without musicality within them could be in exactly the same place and can connect exactly the same way. So no, I think the music's just an element of my personality that I focused on. I mean, anybody could focus on it, but I just happen to have focused on it, and I explore it, and I explore my connectedness with my music. So I definitely find my connectivity through my music, but I don't think the music is necessarily the catalyst. I think that's something that's just in me, and I think it's in all of us, and I think any of us can have this connectivity that way. I think that's really probably the correct answer to that question.
Speaking of your MTV Cribs episode, I just watched that recently, and that was that was great. You have an off-the-grid home, and I take it you still live there, right?
I have two places, but yes, and that I still absolutely. In fact, because I've got a number of buildings, this is again sort of a shameless plug, but I'm actually going to start renting it out for people who want to come and stay there. As whether I've got I know there's local bear hunters that want to stay there, artist retreat. I don't care. Have your wedding reception there. Like, it's a fun place, and there's a really great energy there. But my place is there, absolutely. It's pretty cool to have it. And of course, as you saw, we did have fun with MTV Cribs with it. And of course, the paintball field that I built for my son is there. So.
Well, my question about that is your want or your challenge of building an off-grid home, did that come from just who you were before you did Survivorman and Beyond Survival, or is that something that kind of came from your experiences of traveling around the world?
When that happened, there was a lot of sort of business offers from networks and stuff to create a green show, to sort of maybe even sort of become a bit of a face for the solar and green and that sort of stuff. That's not me. I totally get behind it, but really my motivation behind Off the Grid was more taking away my reliance on the electrical grid and bills and the fact that I'm a wilderness guy, so I could be out in the wilderness and still have the convenience and enjoyment of electricity without having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to bring in wires from some road many miles away. So my motivation is not so altruistic. It's really just, hey, I like living out in the bush. I like having electricity. I know it's a fun project to do. I'm going to film about it because, and this is what I said on the show too, I am not an engineer. You do not want me to touch any wires in your home. I don't know anything about any of that stuff. And I'm not independently wealthy. It's not like I got money to throw around and just throw up a whole bunch of solar panels on my roof. I'm just a regular guy who wants to experience, being able to live this way. What will it take? And hence, I made the show. So that's really where that all comes from. But do I love it out there? Oh, it's a place of great, pardoning the pun, it's a place of great energy out there. So I still have it, and I'm still there.
Probably nice to get away from the internet and emails and calls too every once in a while, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. I'm almost a little bit saddened that my cell phone actually works out there, but I do not. I don't get internet, and I don't get any of that. There's no anything else like that. So it is, I mean, you can tell that I'm a driven guy, and I have I'm ambitious, and so when I'm back in civilization, there's phone calls, meetings. There's always a lot going on. I make my own universe, so I created it. But when I get out there, it just all drops away, and then I get my chance, my personal time to commune with Mother Earth as it is, and sort of just chill down and relax and really take it all in.
That's got to be an important thing. That's probably what still keeps you fired up and all that as well.
It refreshes me. It when the fire's starting to go out, it throws more fuel on.
That's cool. Hey, with like electronics and all that, since you deal with camcorders and cameras and whatnot out in the field, do you have any tips for the listeners to keep them going in such harsh environments that you've been in?
Well, yeah, and I'm glad you asked that, because that's the other side of who I am and what I've done that's been really wonderful to see, good reaction to, and that's me as a filmmaker. The reason why I climb up a tree to put a camera in is because I'm trying to get a good angle, because I want the show to look great. I didn't want it to be a simple home video. It's got to look good, and I'm filming it all myself. I don't have these other camera crews that can go and do things. And, I mean, as far as tips, the bottom line is, what's been just a tangent. What's been great is I've seen people go out to try to do what I do, and they come back going, "Man, how do you do that?" I had one camera, and I was working my butt off, and I was trying to survive. And I said, "Exactly. Well, how I did it is I really worked my butt off. It was long days. I hardly ever slept, and I knew that I needed to get a good angle on this firebow, so I'd set 3 cameras up." But the tip is this: whatever you're doing along those lines, you have to remember. There's a couple of things involved. First of all, you do want to shoot things with skill. You want to try to make things look as beautiful as possible. But if you don't have great content, it really doesn't matter how well you shoot. You've got to have great content. And great content means just to be real. Be real about yourself, be real about the story, and then capture all that you can. But I'm very big on capturing everything. Just film it all, because you always, people are going to dabble in doing their own sort of videos for YouTube and this and that, or survival films. Film it all. Film every little bit, and then, don't forget, you got to spend either as much time editing or more time editing as it took to actually film it. I think people forget that.
I know that's the truth.
Yeah. Well, it takes me 7 days to shoot a Survivorman. It takes 9 weeks to edit it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I can't imagine those time-lapse shots, too. I mean, that's got to be really hard to set up. Ones where you're just walking away and all that, and then you have to walk all the way around to get the camera again.
Well, this is it, yeah. And that's why I would have 2 and 3 cameras. Sometimes I'd have. I remember I often had one camera. It was called my time lapse camera. All it ever did all day long was I would just turn it to a new angle, press and let it go, and let it do it. And usually that's for like sunset, sunrises, clouds going by. But then again, if I'm going to build a shelter, well, I know it's going to take me 4.5 hours. So let's set a camera up over here on time lapse. But doing that still takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes, right? So it's just to set the camera, go climb, angle, get the legs solid, go climb across the beaver dam. It's not like going to the corner of the studio and setting up a light. You got to go across the beaver dam to the other side of the pond. It's crazy, but it was it was fun. That's what that now you're hearing the passion of me as a filmmaker, and I loved that part of it. I loved creating the films.
Well, this kind of reminds me of one thing, and I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you. I'm sure you have, but have you ever, set up that perfect shot? You do your first take of it, everything's perfect, and then you realize, oh, the camera's not on, or I forgot to plug in the audio mic, and then you have to do it all over again. I mean, how often does that happen to you, or has that anything stand out in your mind?
Way, way, way more times than I want to admit. Oh man,
crazy.
Oh, there's some stuff, and it's not only that, it's also setting it all up, and it's recording, and the audio's on, and then I do a quick little check to see what I got. Oh, and I had the angle set wrong. I cut off my head. Got to go back and do it again. And there's more than one moment that that no one will ever see where the camera's rolling and you hear some expletives off camera because I knew I blew it.
Well, whenever we do shows or anything like that, we always do a blooper reel afterwards. I would love to see a Survivorman blooper reel.
Yeah, it would not. It's definitely not for. It would kill my position as role model for the kids. That's for sure.
Too many bleeps, you wouldn't have any.
Oh yeah, it would just be one long bleep. And then you see the camera thrown against a tree or something.
You know, on the subject of making mistakes, you know, like you said earlier, Les, we are the people that will sit around and watch 2 hours of how to do a bow drill video. But the thing that separates your videos from a lot of the other ones out there is you show yourself making mistakes, and you actually tell the audience at the time, hey, this is what I did. It probably wasn't the smartest thing at the time, but you're out here, you get tired, and this happens. Do you think that's an important part of making a reality program reality?
Absolutely, 100%. In fact, I remember getting emails from Green Berets and military guys saying, thank you for showing yourself fail, because that's the reality of survival. I'll tell you a little inside tip thing here, a little tangent, is that when the other shows started coming about, I know what they were doing. What happens in the business is they do these focus groups, and then they'll watch Les Stroud, and they'll say, what do you like about a show? And they'll take all the things. Oh, well, the audience says they like these things. And then they would go to the new shows and say, so do these things. And one of those things watch, some of the new shows started showing them making mistakes, because that was listed as one of the things that the fans, quote-unquote, enjoyed, or the focus group, quote-unquote, enjoyed about Les Stroud. He shows himself making mistakes. My point was simply this: no one does anything perfect out there. There is no. I'm not a survival guru. I'm just a guy trying to survive. And you're gonna voyeuristically watch me go through it. So to see me get a firebow going perfectly, you know what? I'm good at the firebow. I can knock those things off. But to see me get it going perfectly, in some ways, is going to disappoint the 14-year-old boy who goes home and tries it. And, it took me. I was a slow learner with the firebow. It was a long time before I actually got my first ember to really take. Now, that could be instruction, or it could have been me. I don't know. But either way, it took me a long time. So in the show, yes, I think you need to show. Look, this is what I'm about. What I'm about to do here, I've learned over years. So sometimes I would say that. I'd say, I know how to do this. And I would get it. Other times, I would particularly position myself disadvantaged, so I knew it would be difficult for me. I knew there'd be a high chance of me failing, specifically. So, again, remember where I'm coming from. I wanted to teach the skills. You want to teach the skills right. Show how you can fail. Show the things that you can do wrong so that you don't do these things and you do them right. I remember the very first one was all like about having only one match, or letting your matches get wet, because that's what people do. You don't necessarily end up in a survival situation with 3 packs of matches and 2 butane lighters and a striker. You got like 1 pack of match that was in your pocket when you fell out of the canoe, and now they're wet. What do you do now? And so I got to say, I enjoy showing the failures. I really do, because that is, as you guys know, how many times we do things wrong how many times you build a beautiful, elaborate shelter only to find out you're still shivering at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the truth of survival.
And another thing, too, whenever you turn the cameras on, no matter what, you're 10 times more likely to mess up anyway, because the pressure's on. You know what I mean? Yeah, you do. You do get that element. That's for sure. And here's another thing too. I mean, if you watch the work I do, in 99% of the time, you can, unless something happened with my camera, like a battery died or something like that, you can see me, even with the editing, go through the stage of getting something right. So you kind of, and just going back to this, the skills and teaching the skills, one of my greatest disappointments with Survivorman is that I can't belabor the point of firebow. I can't really walk you through step by step by step, because that's as you guys know, it's a difficult process, or any skill. I can't really do that, because I got 43 minutes to tell this story with commercial breaks and all the rest of it. And I got to distill down something that takes all day into 90 seconds, because for this portion of the show, for 2 minutes, we're doing the firebow. So how do you do that? It's very you can't show a lot of the stuff. That was actually always been one of my disappointments, which is why eventually, I'm glad that the I don't want to get his name wrong, Ron Woods, Ron Hood.
Ron Hood, thank you. Ron Hood. That's why it's great that they do the, beginning to end videos and stuff of how to, I should come out with a list of those at some point where I can say, and I've done some actually, they're not out yet, where I just say, okay, this is going to be a 2-hour video on the firebow, alone. That would be great. But of course you'd never get that on television, but that's besides the point, so.
I do have one other question about, because you talked about you have to build up your stamina or get conditioned before you go out and do that stuff. how much of a wear and tear is it on you mentally and physically when you really go out there? Because you're out there for 7 days. I mean, you have a team that's away from you that'll check in on you if there's an emergency. But I mean, you know, how draining is that, and how long does it take you to recover after coming back from one of these excursions?
Psychologically, the challenge is midweek. You know, I'm the one guy who can actually look at the camera and go, I'm lonely, I'm cold, I'm tired, I really don't want to be here on the third day, day 3, day 4. Psychologically, that's always been my toughest challenge, because even in survival itself, I mean, if you know that, you know, it's lonely to be alone for a week or 3 days or 24 hours, you know, of no contact. There's a beauty to it, but there's an aloneness to it too, and that is a tough challenge. When do I recover from that? Instantaneously. The minute I see one person, I'm recovered. It's all over. It's done. That's finished. Physically speaking, you know, in some ways I feel much better. I mean, I've cleansed it's like a week of mandatory cleansing, right? So but I'm not necessarily beat up. It depends on the one, because sometimes I am. Sometimes I come out and I'm just like, oh my God, you know, I feel rough. I'm beaten up. That was a rough week. The desert's made me feel like that, I think. Cold is like that. But how quickly do I recover? The minute I've had a beer and a pizza, I'm recovered. So it really doesn't take that long. It's not a big dramatic experience to recover. You know, for the most part, you're back at normal self as soon as you've had a good big solid meal, you know, and that's more or less what happens to me. So it's not, you know, I don't mean to belittle the question. It's just that it's not that overly dramatic. You know, I go in, I do. That said, as you guys know, I mean, I can tangent for a second here. In making this show and on this topic on what your body goes through. Now. When the networks want me to make more and more, and then I couldn't, and so then all the other copycat shows come out because you got crews and stuff. Well, let me put it this way. Any survival instructor friend of mine, and these names that I've mentioned, the John and Jerry's and the David Holladays and that, if I said to them, hey guys, guess what? Can you go out and teach a survival course for 7 days, but you're going to have to survive 2? They'd be, yeah, no problem. I said, okay, can you do 2 of those this year? Yeah, I could do 2. Okay, can you do 13 times this year? Taking students out or just going out and surviving alone for 7 days, and then go, no, forget it. You're crazy. I'm not going to do that 13 times. I know what, and that's what I was up against, was like trying to get, you know, people to understand, look at, it's not that I'm a wimp. It's not that I can't handle it. It's just that you want me to survive alone for 7 days without food and water 13 times this year? No, that's just foolhardy. I can do it once, twice, and in the end, I did it basically up to, I think I did 8 in 1 year. And that was a lot. That took some stripes out of me because, you know, you're not eating for 7 days. But it's not that you're at home doing a cleansing program and drinking lemon and water. It's that you're in the bush and you're eating insects or trying to, and you're building shelters, and you're freezing or you're sweating or you're struggling. So it's a different process of being without food and very little water or very little food. So that's a long-winded way of saying, you know, it's tough on my body. It's not as dramatic as you might think, but, you know, it could be if you pushed it too far.
Well, great. Well, hey, guys, do we have any other questions for Les off the top of our heads?
No, if he doesn't mind, Adam, maybe we could go to the callers.
Yeah, Les, would you mind taking a couple callers' questions for us?
Absolutely. I think that'd be great.
All right, our first caller is going to be Jason. Jason, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Jason, what's your question for Les?
Well, I'm going to kind of get away from the Survivorman for a second. And I wasn't aware that Les did the MTV Cribs thing, but my question is, when you went off the grid and I saw your show on that, how did your children respond to that? Because my wife and I are currently looking at doing that, and our children are a big issue with that. So I was just wondering how your kids reacted to that.
Yeah, I unfortunately the children will be a big issue. My story's a little convoluted because I experienced a divorce within that time frame, and the original goal was to be a family. We were actually going to homestead at one time a long time ago. So the original goal was to live there as a family, to enjoy it and have the kids enjoy it. And to give you a personal slice of story, we went from the house that we were renting to another interim house that actually the kids finally got their own bedrooms, and they were comfortable, they were nice, they were close to town. Then the challenge of saying, well, we're still going to go off-grid over here wow, that was like, well, we don't want to go. And, we drive in there in the fall and it's raining and it's dark at night. It's scary, and 'cause they're young, right? So the kids are a big challenge. But I'll tell you some things I did do. And first, before I go there, I'll say they're actually coming around now. I still have the place. My kids are now just the other day, finally, I drove my 15-year-old daughter there. We went out on an ATV, drove out. I showed her how far all the buildings have come, and she's like, wow, this is really nice. That's right. You see, on a sunny, beautiful day in the fall, it is beautiful. So that's great. But I'll tell you a couple of things I did that you can do. For one thing, don't ever expect that your kids, or your wife for that matter, are anywhere near as hardy as you are. If you're, for example, we had basically built, and I now have built inside water, but it was basically an outhouse. Well, you know what? I made that outhouse nice with a wood stove and wood floor. So don't expect your kids to be as hardy as you. They just aren't. And if they're in contact and connection with all the other kids and other peers, they don't want to feel weird. They don't want to feel strange about it. It's got to be more over that how lucky you are to be able to have this kind of beautiful off-the-grid experience. And if you can focus your angle to them along those lines, not, mom and dad want to go do this and you're coming with us, you're getting away with us, then you're gonna get a lot more stock in them. But I think the key for me is about making them as comfortable. It doesn't mean compromising your off-the-grid goals. It just means paying attention to the fact that they're kids. They want comfort. And we don't need to turn them all into little Jeremiah Johnsons. We just want them to be there with us because, we love them. And sure, I could live out there with nothing, but they can't. So that's my focus. But as I've been admitting here, though, yeah, it was tough for us too. And then after the divorce, tough for me too to continue to get them interested in it. But now, I made the paintball field for my son. So that's cool. I get him over there. His boyfriends, all the guys, they love it out there. Oh, of course, his dad, their buddy's dad is Survivorman, so I get the extra little cool effort in there. But they love coming out, and we play the paintball. So now Logan's like, oh, all my friends like it out here. Oh, maybe I'm supposed to like it out here. So I think the more you get your kids' friends to sort of go, oh, you're so lucky, you've got such a cool place, and you're off the grid. This is kind of cool. Now your kids start to come around, and that's getting to our kids through their peers is a nice parental subversive way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely,
awesome.
Makes sense.
Turn peer pressure against them.
That's right. Jason, thanks for the great question. I think next we have Dwight. Dwight, are you online with us? A question for Les?
Yeah. Hey, Les. I'm a big fan of your show and how real it is and the humor you put into it. My question is, have you thought about taking a complete newbie to one of your episodes as a survival scenario?
I have actually quite a bit, and as a matter of fact, another idea that sort of rolled around in my back of my brain, and I did do it up here in Canada. You guys didn't get to see it in the States, and I did a thing called the Survival Challenge, where it was for charity, and I took out a bunch of NHL hockey players. It was a blast, and I still have a taste for that, and I would moreover not necessarily take someone with me, but look to be out there and take out newbies in a bit of a survival challenge, not like a reality show, not turn it into that kind of nonsense, but they actually got to go out and do it. So it's been on my plate to do that for a long time, and I'm actually probably inching closer to it now because I have a bit of freedom to do that. So, and if you remember the Tomogamy episode, I did take out Bob Wilson. Now he's a friend. He was a good, very, very good friend of mine. He was actually a bit of a newbie to survival. I mean, he was a hunter, so he knew the bush, and he was very comfortable out there, but he was a little bit new to survival, and so some things were new to him. He tried to play it cool and tough, but some things are still new to him no matter what.
Yeah, a little too cozy in that tent.
Yeah, it's funny because that's one of you talked about the humor, and for me, I mean, I couldn't tell stand-up comedy to save myself. I'm not a shtick kind of guy, but I like to have a quick wit, and I like it to come out in the show once in a while. And there was actually some comedy thing that sort of shows the best comedy moments on television, and it listed that little moment where Bob and I are huddled in and we're talking to the camera. And he's talked something about the geese flying overhead to try to end the scene because he's trying to be a filmmaker. And I give him crap on camera. I go, when I say the scene is over, the scene is over. And it was listed on this site as one of the funniest moments on TV. So I was very proud of that.
Well, thank you for answering that question.
No problem.
I'm a great big fan. Love your work. Just keep up
the good work. Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right, well, Les, thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming on the show. And actually, right now, we're going to be doing a giveaway, the Les Stroud's Beyond Survival, the complete series on 2 discs. I have the DVD right here in my hand, and it's actually signed by Mr. Les Stroud himself. So we got a bunch of listeners right now. We're just going to have anybody listening to the show over the phone or anything. You just press 1 to get into the host queue, and then our lovely producer is going to select one and put them on the air real quick here, hopefully in a second.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I'll do you one better for the future. When they're ready, the line of survival knives, the survival kit, and believe it or not, just because I could and it was fun, I'm actually going to be releasing a very well thought out, again, I'm putting it through the ringer, survival board game. When those are all ready, I'll make sure that you get the package of them, and you can do another giveaway in any which way you want with those items as soon as I can get them out.
Ooh, Adam, that means a machete too.
That's what it means.
That's right. We'd love to get it do a E2E test on that one. That'd be great stuff.
Absolutely. Please do.
Right,
yes.
So, Amy, if you're online, if you could pick one of our callers at random and put them on, and we'll give away the DVD. All right. Caller, you online?
Hello?
Caller?
Hello?
Hey, what's your name?
Jason?
Jason. Hey, guess what, buddy? You just won the Les Stroud Beyond Survival DVD.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Hey, good stuff. Well, hey, listen, we're going to put you back with the producer. She can get your email address and send that to me, and I'll make sure I mail that to you right away, buddy.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Adam. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. All right, Les. Well, hey, fellas, we got anything else to go over, Mr. Stroud, while we have him? We know he's a busy man, and he'll have to be getting out of here pretty soon. Les, what do you got planned for the rest of the day here? I know you got some big stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go for a run. I still try to stay in shape and keep things going. I'm going to try to go for a run, and I've got a rehearsal coming up for the concert tonight. It's at the I'll say this for anybody who happens to be within driving distance. It's in Hamilton, Ontario, at the Mohawk Theatre tonight at 7 o'clock. And I've already mentioned all the things on the go in the future. I'm going to stay busy with it. I'm not going away. I came out of this purely loving survival from the beginning, so it's been fun doing it, and I love where it's still going with everything else. And I'm really grateful for your show and the chance to come on, guys.
Well, thank you very much. Now, Les, if people want to get in touch with you or just follow you, what's the best way they can do that?
Oh, well, of course, my Facebook itself is, Laura, it's The Real Les Stroud. Yeah, the Facebook page for me is The Real Les Stroud. There's a bunch of other sort of copy ones out there, but The Real Les Stroud is my Facebook. My website is lesstroud.ca, and I really encourage people to sign up to the newsletter, because then you'll know where I'm going to be, when I'm going to be, what I'm doing, what's coming out if you get on the newsletter. And we only bug you once a month, so it's you don't get inundated with anything.
And you have a Twitter account as well, right?
Yeah, I do things with. I should do more with Twitter, but I'm not inclined that way. I'll do postings to the Facebook that automatically go to Twitter. As I said, I mentioned the newsletter. Of course, my music's on iTunes. So I think if they peruse through the lesstroud.ca, they can pretty much find everything that's got to do with what's going on.
Great stuff. Well, Les, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Robbie, Joe, you guys have anything else for Les?
Thanks for your time, man. It's inspiring. It's great to hear that you're so fired up about it. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. I really. Oh, hang on. I'm just getting a message from the side here. It is. Something to do with something else. So, listen. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciated the time, and let's do this again, guys.
Absolutely. All right, Les. You take care. Be safe out there.
Okay.
All right, guys. Great show today. So, hey, before we sign off, just a real quick update. You guys check out the website at www.equiptoendure.com. Robbie, we got anything coming up in the very near future?
We've still got a bunch of knives to do reviews on, Adam, as well as a little backpack.
We do have a backpack. We got a mystery ranch bag. Now, this is one of the most priciest bags we've ever done. So, as soon as my bag gets straightened out, we'll be good to go to go out there and test that out and give you guys some good videos on that. Joe, what's going on with you? You're heading out to El Salvador here really soon, right?
Yeah, I think about 10 o'clock tonight, and we'll be working, and then I'll come back to reality Sunday. All
right. Well, hey, guys, I'd like to thank our guest, Les Stroud, again. You guys go check out his website at lesstroud.ca. And this is the Equipped to Endure podcast. And if you guys have any questions or comments, you can email me at adam@equippedtoendure.com. You can also get Robert or Joe at equippedtoendure.com. You guys take care. Be safe out there. And remember, if you're not always prepared, you're never prepared. Thanks.
Woo-hoo.